Kirkcaldy High School and welcome to a very different Holocaust Memorial Assembly. Today marks Holocaust Memorial Day. It also marks the anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz working house, the largest Nazi death camp. Today we remember the Holocaust alongside those that survived, men and women who endured unimaginable horrors in their younger years and today. And in their older years, they spend their time sharing their memories to ensure that the past is never forgotten. The Holocaust threatened the fabric of civilization. Our world often feels fragile and vulnerable, and we cannot be complacent. Even in the UK, prejudice, discrimination, and language of hatred must be challenged by us all. As the Holocaust moves further into history, it falls on all of us to ensure the stories of the 6 million Jewish men, women, and children brutally murdered by the Nazis are never forgotten. The theme of this year's Holocaust Memorial Day is to be the light in the darkness. I'm sure we can all agree this past year, due to the global pandemic, providing light in dark times is more important than ever. Sometimes it is the smallest of choices and actions that provide light in dark places, which links perfectly to the importance of kindness, a quality that us at Kirkcaldy High School provide and hold very highly. With this in mind, our focus for this virtual assembly is not only to be the light in the darkness, but also the importance of acts of kindness during dark times.
The Holocaust was a period in history at the time of World War II when millions of Jews were murdered because of who they were. The killings were organised by Germany's Nazi party led by Adolf Hitler. Jews were the main target of the Nazis and the greatest number of victims were Jews. Nearly 7 out of every 10 Jews in Europe were murdered because of their identity. The Nazis also killed other groups of people including Roma and disabled people. They also arrested and took away the rights of other groups like gay people and political opponents. Many of them died as a result of their treatment. The Holocaust was an example of genocide. Genocide is deliberately killing a large group of people, usually because they were a certain nationality, race, or religion.
October 9th, 1942. Today I have nothing but dismal and depressing news to report. Our many Jewish friends and acquaintances are being taken away in droves, the Gestapos treating them very roughly and transporting them in cattle cars to Westerbork, the big camp in Drenfe to which they're sending all the Jews. Miep told us about someone who managed to escape from there. It must be terrible in Westerbork. The people get almost nothing to eat, much less to drink, as water is only available 1 hour a day, and there's only one toilet and sink for several thousand people. Men and women sleep in the same room, and women and children have their heads shaved. Escape is almost impossible. Many people look Jewish, and they're branded by their shorn heads. If it's that bad in Holland, what must it be like in those faraway and uncivilized places where the Germans are sending them? We assume that most of them are being murdered. The English radio says they're being gassed. Perhaps that's the quickest way to die. I feel terrible. Miep's account of these horrors are so heart-rending. Fine specimens of humanity, those Germans. And to think I'm actually one of them. No, that's not true. Hitler took away our nationality long ago. And besides, there are no greater enemies on the earth than the Germans and Jews. July 15th, 1944. It is utterly impossible for me to build my life on a foundation of chaos, suffering and death. I see the world being slowly transformed into a wilderness. I hear the approaching thunder that one day will destroy us too. I feel the suffering of millions. And yet, when I look up at the sky, I somehow feel that everything will change for the better. That this cruelty too will end. That peace and tranquility will return once more. In the meantime, I must hold on to my ideals. Perhaps the day will come when I'll be able to realise them.
The SS guard came to us and told us they need some prisoners to go work on a farm and look after some pigs. Of course, everybody in the group wanted to do this, as it allowed you to get out of a camp, so there were a lot of volunteers. Realising this, the SS guard told us that if you wanted to do this, you had to be able to speak German and also have previous experience working on a farm. So that eliminated a few Spaniards, as well as a surprising number of Czechs who didn't know how to speak German. Finally, the SS guard selected about 20 of us and lined us up, and I overheard one of the guards telling him that you had too many. So he started to push back a few, and then he came to me and he pushed me back. And I was hoping so much to be able to work on the farm, and I was so hungry I'd be willing to eat with the pigs. So I came forward and in German, at attention, told him that I had previous experience working on a farm, and all I'd done my whole life was feed pigs. This was obviously a lie. But he cruelly kicked me, and I still have the mark on my leg today. When he had finally selected about a dozen, he told them turn right and walk to the farm. Now that part of their camp was separated by guards, and these guards had heavy machine guns to guard the outlines of the camp. We were very upset they were left behind and looked with envy as those who were marching to that farm. But suddenly we heard gunshots and noticed that all the prisoners who were marching to that farm and crossed this so-called border were all brutally shot down dead. And I could have been one of them. Once they had finished, the SS guard came back to us all and laughingly remarked, "Does anyone else know how to feed pigs?"
First they came for the communists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a communist. Then they came for the socialists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a socialist. Then they came for the trade unionists, and I did not speak out, because I was not a trade unionist. Then they came for the Jews, and I did not speak out, because I wasn't a Jew. Then they came for me, and there was no one left to speak out for me.
I personally visited Auschwitz, a former Polish military barracks, which was taken over and turned into a work camp by the Nazis. It was a very interesting place to visit, as a lot of the old buildings have been transformed into mini museums on different aspects of the prisoners' lives here. The exhibits themselves were very insightful, showing you where many of the prisoners were brought from, and giving those who died a face or a name to help you visualise and remember them by. There were 3 buildings in particular that really hit me. One of them was a building at a long corridor as you came in. The walls were lined with images of prisoners from the camp, which gave a face and most times a name to the statistics that you hear so much when discussing these camps. The second building was the first ever of the gas chambers that are synonymous with the name Auschwitz. It was a small building, but when you were inside it felt huge. Walking through took only a minute or so, but seeing things that I'd seen in a textbook made time feel slower and brought these horrors to life for me. After getting some background on the building, we headed to the top floor. These were the rooms that made the biggest impact on me personally. Here were displays of all of the belongings of people who'd been killed here. The enormous number of items, especially the shoes and hair, was the stuff of nightmares. The displays went the length of whole rooms and piled taller than me. I was blown away. We then headed downstairs to the exit again, but not before seeing one of the most breathtaking things I saw on the whole trip. It was a book of 2/3 of all of the names of those who had died during the Holocaust. Around 4 million separate names. I know saying that number doesn't explain how truly gigantic this book was, but it really has to be seen to be believed, like a lot of things on this trip. I was taken aback by it as I flicked from page to page, reading name after name. It was a harrowing read, as the number of names were far too many for any person to comprehend. I then visited Auschwitz-Birkenau. The first thing I noticed upon entering the front gates was the sheer size of this place. It stretched further than the eye could see and had chimneys lining the sides from the previous huts. As I walked through the camp, I could not seem to shake that feeling of unease. I'd heard stories of people feeling cold or uncomfortable as they walked through the camp, but I assumed it was always exaggerated slightly for the sake of a good story. Now, having been in their shoes, I can confirm it's a real feeling. It's unnerving as you wander around and see more and more of the atrocities committed here. We saw where the prisoners lived, in inhumane conditions, in stables built for horses. The camp was vast, and these huts had been built all the way back, although most had been torn down by now. It was, yet again, another moment that you just can't comprehend through images. We were given a candle to light on the memorial at the end of those tracks, and made our long walk back towards those infamous gates on our return home. I believe this day was one of the most important of my life so far, and was an experience I won't forget. I think an important part of history is to visit these places where unimaginable brutality took place and ensure the lessons from them are never forgotten and, more importantly, never repeated. Thank you.
days watching from the windows, all those years outside looking in, all that time never even knowing just how blind I've been. Now I'm here blinking in the starlight, now I'm here, suddenly I see, standing here, it's all so clear, I'm where I'm meant to be. And at last I see the light, and it's like the fog has lifted. And at last I see the light, and it's like the sky is blue. And it's warm and real and bright. years living in a blur. All that time never truly seeing things the way they were. Now you're here shining in the starlight. Now you're here, suddenly I know. If you're here, it's crystal clear. I'm where I'm meant to go. And at last I see the light. It's like the fog has lifted. And at last I see the light. And it's like the sky is blue. And it's warm and real and bright. And the world has somehow shifted. All at once, everything is different. Kindness lights the way. Kindness lights the
Thank you all for taking the time to watch our Holocaust Memorial Assembly. As previously mentioned, we cannot underestimate the importance of remembering the Holocaust and all of the victims. The utterly unprecedented times to which we find ourselves living currently are showing the very best of what humanity is capable of, but also the much darker side of the world that we live in. We can all stand in solidarity. We can choose to be the light in the darkness in a variety of different ways and places, at home, in public, and online. Holocaust Memorial Day enables us to remember for a purpose. It gives us a responsibility to work for a safer, better future for everybody. Everyone can step up and use their talents to help tackle prejudice, discrimination and intolerance wherever we encounter them. It's your turn to be the light in the darkness.